Hi, good morning, everybody, and it's time for another episode book reading of What It's Like to Chill Out with Ratlko, Mladic, Karadzic, and Goran Hadjic, Confessions of a Female War Crimes Investigator, read by yours truly, Mr. Louis Starr, me. Getting back to when Darko and Bojana returned to Serbia and Darko lost his job at the Bosnian mission, they turned and boarded their plane to Belgrade as I drove back to New Jersey. Driving home, I felt an odd combination of extreme sadness at the loss of my two best friends, mixed with the cheerful prospect I would shortly be boarding a plane myself, destined to Serbia and Montenegro by the end of August 2002, when my student loan check arrived for approximately $10,000 US. Upon arriving home from the airport, I immediately began making all the necessary arrangements for my forthcoming trip to Serbia and Montenegro areas. The day following Darko's departure, I bought one of a great many prepaid phone cards for the purpose of calling him, owing to my both missing Darko and also my primarily wanting to begin making all the necessary arrangements facilitating my forthcoming visit from JFK Airport to fly to Belgrade. I had countless questions, such as how much money will I need to bring with me for the trip, how will I obtain a visa being an American citizen with all the anti-American sentiment that the U.S. State Department was saying existed in Serbia at that time, and their warnings against U.S. citizenry traveling into the region, etc., etc., etc. I had already obtained a valid United States passport many years ago, which I always carried with me. I've always held the strong opinion that having a valid U.S. passport with me at all times is just a plain good idea. My friend that used to live at the monastery, Branko Liliana Piper from Belgrade, Liliana always used to tell me, Jill, it's very important to always have a valid passport on you. That way, if you ever need to, you can leave the country at any time. Otherwise, you're controlled, and if you need to leave, you can. So ever since she told me that, I've always had a valid passport on me. So if I want to leave at any time the country, I can. It enables having a valid passport at all times enables a person the necessary freedom to go to the airport and catch a plane going anywhere at any time. Darko told me that I need not worry about all the complicated visa requirements listed on the Serbian government website, since he held diplomatic status required of other Americans, that he would handle everything. Darko told me I was told merely to bring with me about $5,000 in cash spending money, and it was a done deal. I went to buy some new suitcases and clothes for my trip in Wayne, New Jersey at Annie Says, where my friend Liliana, she was from Serbia. She was the manager there for about 10 years before returning to Belgrade a few years ago. Unfortunately, now she's dying of cervical cancer, and I wish I could be with her, but I cannot. I lost track of her. Packing was always a problem for me, as Darko can attest to, owing to my medically diagnosed attention deficit disorder. I always had a difficult time deciding on what to bring and what not to bring, and it took me hours of just deciding. So I tried to bring everything I thought that I needed, and it was hard for me to pack, because I remember trying to sit and close a suitcase and take things out and put them in. It just drove me crazy. The day of my departure, my suitcases weighed over the weight restrictions indicated by the airline. I forget which airline I took, but they let me through anyway. Darko told me, getting to JFK for departure, the airport in New York in mid-August of 2001 or 2 proved to be an almost insurmountable task in and of itself, owing to my heavy luggage, and everyone I asked to drop me off at the airport that day strongly held views against my going. Arnold Stark declined to bring me, owing to his personal jealousies insofar as Darko and everyone else had one or another excuse rooted in anti-American sentiments in Serbia at the time, and the danger involved, as I saw it. Undeterred, I finally convinced Archbishop John LeBoux, my priest and confessor in the Orthodox Christian Church at the Holy Name Orthodox Christian Monastery in West Milford, New Jersey, to take me as far as the Port Authority in Manhattan. From there, I took a bus to JFK, and I managed the rest myself. Post 9/11 terrorist attacks, JFK was supposedly safe beyond reproach insofar as security, but this proved very untrue. I had not traveled outside America in many years, so I was unfamiliar with the new travel restrictions on such items as nail scissors, clippers, being illegal to bring on board flights, and I did carry several very sharp ones and nail files and scissors right inside my purse, and I passed right through the JFK security inspectors and customs inside my purse, and I brought all these scissors and sharp nail files right on board the plane out of my own ignorance, but they let me through, and this was right after 9/11, and they should have stopped me when I went to the metal detector, but they didn't. JFK was very bad when it came to security that day. The flight, the flight to Belgrade that the security offered. It was when I had a stopover flight in Paris, France to Belgrade. That's when I boarded the yacht, the Yugoslavia Air Travel. Um, it was a small jetliner, and it was there when I was boarding the Yugoslav Airlines. The Serbian official for yacht stopped me, and he said, "Don't you know this is illegal? You can't take these things on board." And I walked to the metal detector, and he saw it, and he searched my purse, and he said, "You can't have these sharp nail items after 9/11. How do you get them on board?" And I said, "Well, I don't know any better. I was at JFK, and I went to the metal detector, and they searched, and they said, 'Go right ahead.'" And he laughed, and the yacht inspector said, "Well, it's here on yacht at Yugoslav Air Travel. We take anti-terrorism very seriously. I'm gonna have to take these from you." I said, "Go right ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't know." So it was not until my stopover in Paris, France, that I was boarding onto the Yugoslav Air Travel jetliner that they confiscated the aforementioned items owing to the new security precautions implemented post 9/11. Flying out was just wonderful. You were able to walk around on board. They had great Serbian food. Everyone was so friendly. It was a great experience. I had plenty of people to speak English to in magazines. I felt so comfortable and so safe. I really would recommend if anyone is going to Eastern Europe, and they can take a Serbian flight. It's a great experience. I informed the Yugoslav air official upon boarding my initial flight at JFK in New York. The security guards at the gate allowed me to board my flight to Paris carrying these sharp items in my purse. The yacht security employee merely shook his head in amazement, mentioning something insofar as his seriously questioning American security standards post 9/11 if they let me board the plane with those items. Yugoslav Air Travel obviously took airline and passenger security much more seriously than they did at JFK. I loved flying yacht. Not only was I completely satisfied with the flight from Paris to Belgrade, it was many times more secure since yacht searched all boarding passengers more thoroughly than they did at JFK. And so far as the hospitality, the food and drink was excellent. I say this owing to my being a well-seasoned traveler, having previously visited places such as Indonesia, Thailand, Hong Kong, and China in the early 70s. It was an extremely laid-back, great experience to fly yacht. People moved around, switching seats and chatting with good friends, and the food was the best. My favorite Serbian food and drink were served, and all airline employees showed me the highest level of hospitality and respect. I was extremely pleased with the professionalism and service on yacht. I later began an online blog on yacht on Yahoo 360. I had such a great experience. Upon my flight arriving in Belgrade, all passengers left the plane in the usual manner, except Serbian citizens were all shuffled through customs quickly, merely showing their Yugoslav passports. All others, including myself, were asked to relinquish all their passports and told to merely wait an unspecified amount of time in a holding area at the Belgrade Nikola Tesla Airport. An airport security officer went around confiscating everybody's passport afterward, leaving us merely standing there not knowing what to expect next. No other announcements were made. I was a little nervous, but I think, Darko said he'd be there, and he was attached to the government there, so I wasn't worried about anything really. I just gave him my passport, but a lot of people there, Americans, and other people were really worried they thought they were going to be arrested as spies and all kinds of other stuff. I just waited, but some things did cross my mind. I did the only thing I could do. I relinquished my passport to the Serbian custom officials, along with the other Western Europeans and Americans, if there were any, which I surmised, like myself, were attempting to enter Serbia from countries that were NATO allies in the Kosovo War against Slobodan Milosevic in 1999. There must have been about 20 persons with me just sitting there, standing there waiting, not knowing what to do. All types of nagging thoughts began to plague me, like because we waited there about an hour, such as, quote, perhaps my friends are right. Maybe I shouldn't have gone and taken this trip. Maybe it was too dangerous. Maybe I'm going to be arrested as a spy. Maybe I shouldn't have come to Serbia without the anti-American sentiment. And what would happen if the Serbian customs declared I was an American spy and kept my passport, and I ended up in some unknown jail and or murdered? Who would find me? What would I do? Etc., etc., etc. It seemed nearly an hour passed. Me and the others were still standing there around and waiting for us, and there were no announcements. I didn't want to seem overly scared or curious by asking any of the Serbian custom officials or anyone else waiting with me anything as to cause unnecessary attention to myself. So I just checked my watch and wondered if Darko knew I was here waiting. I had hoped with his government connections he would at least inquire about my arrival, since he told me he would pick me up at Nikola Tesla. I drew comfort from the fact that Darko was always very punctual, picking me up and bringing himself and others to the airports, and he was. He was there, and I did get my passport back, and as soon as I walked out, he was there waiting. He grabbed my airport, and I'll continue later. Thank you. I wouldn't usually stop right now, but I have to go to the pain doctor and get the right pain patches later, which is going to cost me about $200 because Liza at the Lane Pharmacy made that error the other day. I'm also in very bad pain, so I'll talk to everyone later. God bless. Have a good day.